trophies on the table. That is what is on the line here in the finals. For Ben Stark, Matt Nass, and Sam Pardee, they have lost 1 round in the entire tournaments and no rounds today. Every other team in the tournament has at least 3 losses.
Very impressive run by these 3.
Yeah, that includes the team of Popspichal, Snyder, and Lynch. One of their losses coming at the hands of Stark, Nass, and Pardee. But they get a shot at revenge here as they have made it into the finals. Best 2 of 3 matches will decide it. Popspichal and Snyder both losing their matches last time. One of them needs to hope to turn it around during the rematch.
Right. And this is the one that counts. Previously, Stark, Nass, and Pardee defeated Popspichal, Snyder, and Lynch, but they remain in the tournament. This one is for elimination and for the trophy.
You know, especially in these team events, these rematches can carry some extra weight. You know, when you and your team, you know, you feel like you got bested by someone, especially as a group, you can feel that like need to get them back a lot stronger.
Definitely. And sometimes what happens, maybe something happens where you didn't understand the way things are supposed to work in a match and you lost to a particular combination of cards or tricks that you hadn't seen before, and you have that information the next time you get paired.
Yeah, you have the ability to kind of consult with your teammates, figure out what went right and wrong.
Deckless face-up also help a lot.
Keep in mind, between Pardee and Lynch, their match playing not to a finish, so they're going to, could say, some unfinished business between them. Game 1 between Ben Stark and Levi Popspichal, going to be a tough one. Levi on a number of mulligans here.
Mardu Vehicles, it's a very aggressive deck. It's not something that is particularly interested in mulliganing.
Well, especially in Standard, we have these there's a lot of attrition going on right now. Mulligans aren't that forgiving right now.
Right, and Stark is looking to offer a lot of one-for-one trades, and Vehicles is not looking to generate very much card advantage.
Now, interestingly enough, Ryan, this match with Levi Popspichal is the first time this weekend we've seen Mardu Vehicles be played in Standard. And that said, it's one of the top decks of the format.
Yeah. Put 6 copies in the top 8 of Pro Tour Aether Revolt. I believe 2 copies in the top 8 of the most recent Standard Grand Prix.
All right, looks like Levi's kept a hand. We're going to see if he can put something together. Looks like the ending point was 4 cards. All right, so on the draw, though, he still has the first play with a copy of Inventor's Apprentice. And Ben will start a straight race on Scrap Heap Scrounger. The mana, though, may be catching up with Levi. You see he swings with the Apprentice for 1. Remaining cards in hand, Fatal Push, 2 copies of Toolcraft Exemplar. It's actually kind of reasonable because his curve's close to the ground, but the mana's not letting him cast everything just yet.
You can't really ask for too much more out of a 4-color hand, unfortunately, but there are a couple choking points here. No black mana, no artifact for any of these 1-drops that care about artifacts, and only able to cast 1 of the white 1-drops on this turn.
And now if he does find an artifact, this will power up pretty big. His Exemplar will become a 3-2 and his Inventor a 2-3. And for Ben, it's not like he has blockers. His turn 2 and 3 play, both copies of Scrap Heap Scrounger.
Stark very much assuming the role of the beatdown here.
Draw for Levi. No land, no artifacts, but he has a copy of Veteran Motorist. Could set him up for that next turn. And he now gets an option between the 2. A copy of Concealed Courtyard is both his 3rd land and his black source. He also sees a Scrap Heap Scrounger on top, so a neat choice he has.
These are 2 fine cards to keep on top.
Switches their order, but keeps them there. Swings in for 2. It's 17 all. And we'll see here if Levi can make a game of this. He'll drop to 11 on the attack. And it's Walking Ballista on 1 from Ben. So right now he can use that to kill any of Levi's 3 creatures. Or any of the 2. He can't do the Apprentice, but...
And pick up with Scrap Heap Scrounger. That makes taking down the Exemplar pretty inviting.
Now he will cast the 3-2. So moving to combat, Ben now has a decision.
Of course, blocking a creature and then shooting a different creature is the way to conserve the most life here.
Yeah, that's the way to conserve the most life. Now, if Ben really wants to kill the Toolcraft Exemplar, he can't actually play it that way.
Right.
next draw for Levi is Concealed Courtyard. Remember, that will both unlock the Fatal Push in his hand and the Scrap Heap Scrounger's ability to come back from the graveyard.
Right. No, Popspichal already down to 11. The 2 Scrap Heap Scroungers still in play for Stark. He's got a lot to be worried about with his own life total.
Levi goes to combat. Ben gonna choose carefully. Looks like he decides to block sack, so blocks the 3-2, sacrifices to kill the 3-1. He takes 2 and goes to 15. Puts him pretty far ahead in this race as Levi has no blockers. And I guess all it would take from Stark is something like a Gear Hulk here to really swing this game out of reach.
Right. Less than that would even be pretty effective. Even a Rishkar to add to his clock would be just fine.
A swing for 6 will put Levi into 1-turn territory, down to 5. Ben with a 2-2 Walking Ballista passes the turn.
Ballista also very serviceable.
Sure, I mean, the Ballista at 2 damage, Ben could first use it to kill these creatures. He could also just send it upstairs to make all the Scroungers lethal.
Right.
And things are looking like they might just continue to walk it in for the team of Stark, Nass-Pardee. Nass-Pardee taking game 1 over Paul Lynch, 1-0.
Yeah, any Miracles versus Sultai control match concluding that fast. I suppose now in the era of Monastery Mentor, it could be either way, but you would expect it to be the Sultai deck.
Yeah, and we saw that from Sam with the game he won over Christopher Stagno earlier this morning. Was able to play to the board rather quickly, like a couple mana creatures and a True Name Nemesis. Then the game where he won a fight over a Terminus, that one was over quickly. Well, Levi will continue to race here as he swings for 6. Stark down to 9. Concealed Courtyard from Levi, but he's gonna. I don't think he can block through this. He will pass the turn. Then he says, fine.
And Stark was not concerned at all about blocking on that turn. By maintaining the Ballista here, he can crank that up to a 3 and make it so any creatures connecting is lethal.
All right, well, how about Verdurous Gearhulk?
That was pretty good, too. Now the Ballista could just be lethal on its own, though he does have to be concerned about that Fatal Push or an unlicensed disintegration out of Popspichal.
Yeah, well, so I think Ben still has lethal here. He can target the Ballista for 3 and one of the Scroungers. And the problem is Levi has to, in response, kill the Ballista, right? Otherwise, he's just 5 upstairs, you lose. I think that's what Ben's going to do. And as soon as he does that, Ben's going to remove all the blockers.
There really was not a window in that game where there was concern about Ben losing.
Right, and that's exactly the play that happens. Ben threatens to make a lethal Ballista, and Levi sees there's no way out. And Ben Stark, alongside Nass-Pardee, takes the first game over his opponent.
Right, off to a 2-0 lead for that team.
And once again, we see Ben looking to have a repeat of their last matchup, now up on his opponent. Matt Nass and Asa Snyder still in game number 1. Now, every game's not going to be as easy as your opponent being on a 4-card hand. So let's look over at Levi Popspichal. Because Mardu Vehicles is like one of the tier 1 decks, this is generally considered its bad matchup. It's the kind of thing that Mardu can really work to address in the sideboard. And Levi has just that. A lot of removal. Cards like Fatal Push, Shock, Sky Sovereign. Going down the list here, tell me how he changes his deck.
So Fatal Push is great. It kills the majority of creatures in Ben's deck. That one is just great. Thalia, Heretic Cathar on the play can really swing the tempo in your favor. Stark is playing a decent number of higher mana cost creatures. Chandra, Torch of Defiance can be supplementing on your removal spells and also contribute to your clock as well. This is not really a matchup for release with Gremlins. It's actually fine. You can tag a Verdurous Gearhulk, so he knows that Stark is lighter on this one. So this is going to be not super effective here. And Sky Sovereign Console Flagship is pretty solid. It kills a lot of the creatures in Stark's deck as well as being a giant flyer. So the Sky Sovereign looks mighty powerful here as well. Can certainly bring in the extra copy of Gideon. There were 3 in the main deck, and going up to more Gideons allow him to deal with more of these wonderful removal spells out of this black-green deck and then go over the top with the Planeswalker.
All right, so we look at that. On Ben Stark's side, this is a matchup which he also can approach. He's got Gonti, Kalitas, Murderer. So it's kind of like a lot of his things also lets him go big.
Right.
Just like Levi. And I kind of expect this to get to be more of a slugfest between them.
Yeah, it's looking to be that way. The Kalitas is a big find from Stark here. can turn some removal spells into some serious value and also gain him some life. Natural obsolescence is great. You can put a Scrap Heap Scrounger on the bottom of Pospical's deck or just deal with any of the other artifacts. Natural State to destroy Heart of Kieran is a pretty powerful one.
Yeah, speaking of a slugfest, how about the matchup of Stark, Nass, and Pardee versus the rest of the tournament? Matt Nass pulling in a result in Modern, now all 3 of them up a game. Okay, but on the match we're on.
Yeah, it's not looking great for the home team here. Well, I suppose
for all the other teams,
the home player and the 2 Sconnies, I suppose.
I don't believe we've watched. This is the 4th match we've watched Stark, Nass, and Pardee play this week, just today. Not only have they not lost a round, Ryan, they haven't lost a game, a match. It's been 2-0 3 times.
Yeah. Great players playing great decks. I don't know what you want from me.
All right, well, all 3 of them sideboarding for their second game here at the Baltimore Open. Now, we have a lot more Opens coming up here in 2017, and that starts next week. It's our first Modern Open of the year. It's going to be in Indianapolis. Going through, we actually have the events for the rest of Season 1. So, Modern, Legacy, and Standard, we have events in each format. It's going to be in the beginning of March. We are in Dallas for a Modern Open. That's March 11th and 12th. We take about a month break, and then we come back for the Legacy event of 2017. That's the Worcester Open. It's April 8th and 9th. Mark that one on your calendars. It's your outside of this weekend, it is your other opportunity here on the tour to play a main event Legacy tournament. Of course, we have our classics as well. Now, for the rest of 2017 Season 1, we have the Atlanta Open. That's April 29th and 30th in Standard. We take a break for Louisville, where we then come back, play Standard, come back to Baltimore for Modern, and then end the season with a Modern Open in Charlotte and the Season 1 Invitational. That's June 30th through July 2nd in Roanoke, Virginia. And all these players are qualified for it.
Yep, and this will be our first invitational in the new prize structure in Roanoke. It's going to be a really exciting tournament.
Now, when you show up to these events or the Associated Classics, we now have playmats to give away. Now, depending on the format of the event that you enter, we now have our Standard Legal playmat for Standard. That's going to be a copy of the Land Ether Hub given away to Standard Opens and Standard Classics. In Modern, we still have the invention artwork of Aether Vial, the Modern staple. And on top of that, in Legacy, we're giving away the Eternal Masters art of Gamble. So 3 playmats and ways to get them. Whether it's a Standard or a Classic, you get easy entry to any of those events. Also available with our Infinite Challenges.
Yep, some great art on the playmats, and we've seen all 3 of these cards cast this weekend, if you've been sticking with us throughout the tournament.
So between Pospichal, Asa Snyder, and Paul Lynch, they as a team can lose 1 more game. And other than that, they need to win 4 before they lose 1.
Yes.
Maybe even win 5. Game number 2, though, now about to start here between Pospichal and Ben Stark. Players resolving their mulligans. Pospichal, remember, he was on a 4-card hand last time. He's looking to do a little bit better on this one.
He does at least get to be on the play in this game. Hemming and hawing a little bit, consulting with Asa Snyder. And sending it back. Ouch.
No. It's one of those things, especially, I know for me as a player, if I have to lose on a mulligan to 4, as much as I want to think it never affects my decisions, it can be really frustrating after a mulligan to 4 to then ship your next 7-card hand.
Right.
There's like this feeling of, not again, I don't want this to happen. And as much as you don't want to, it can lead you to be more shy about mulliganing.
Mm-hmm. This is tangential, but I found that when I'm playing a lot of Magic online, I'm less interested in mulliganing in paper games. Because in Magic Island, I just click a button and I have a new hand to mulligan. Where in paper, I have to do a lot of shuffling.
And I'll talk about this too. So having played a lot of online Magic, the number of times I've seen people mulligan to 2 on Magic Online is so much bigger than anything I've ever seen in paper.
Right.
And you have to think that has to, and I don't have data on this, and I'd love to see this, but average mulligans per match, that number's got to be so much higher for the online game.
I would imagine.
Then you have to wonder which one's correct. Is it that people in Magic are doing it correctly, or that people in Magic just kind of like, you've done the tilts thing where you mulligan once and then you mulligan to a zero land and you just start mashing that mulligan button until you're at 2, and then you go over to the concede button and then you just throw your keyboard. And
You're actually ignoring the third option, which is often correct in human behavior. Both patterns are wrong, and we never do anything correctly.
Well, that one's just a given truth. All right. Well, we have a reasonable hand here. Levi keeping on 6 for game number 2 between him and Ben Stark. And this time his mana being much nicer to him. A pair of Inspiring Vantages to start the game, but no associated plays with it.
Yeah, going a little bit slower here in the sideboarded games, and 6-card hand in a 3-color deck. You can't be too picky.
Yeah, you did see that though when we looked at his sideboard. He has a way to go big a lot more easily in these postboard games.
A spot, an Aethersphere Harvester, and a Chandra Torch of Defiance in hand. So he'll have some spells to cast. It's going to take him a little bit of time.
Yeah, especially if he builds up towards something like Sky Sovereign. He can certainly recover from the fact that he had no plays on 1 or 2.
Right.
So despite being on the draw, it'll be Ben committing to the board first. It's a copy of Scrap Heap Scrounger.
And the Scrap Heap Scrounger still being in the deck suggests that Ben is interested, at least in some capacity, assuming a beatdown roll.
Yeah, if he wanted to play, well, I suppose if he's worried about Levi going bigger and becoming a removal deck, Scrounger's not even bad in that fight.
Yeah, a resilient threat is nice.
All right, play first from Levi. It's a 3-drop. It's one of his copies of Pia Nalar. The 2/2 legend from Kaladesh will bring along a Thopter before he sends the turn back over to Ben Stark. Does represent a pretty reasonable block here, trading Pia for Scrounger, and then Levi nets a Thopter out of the deal.
Yeah, while Stark does not have any creatures in graveyard, this sort of trade is reasonable.
There's a swing, but looks like Levi has other plans. Pia Nalar not on blocking duty. He'll take the 3. For Ben, Gnarlwood Dryad, the creature, leaving up 2 mana, possible Grasp of Darkness. The 1/1 Death Touch, unassuming right now, it does have the ability to turn into a 3/3 when it gets Delirium.
Some deliberation between the team here. Access to Aethersphere Harvester and Chandra on this turn.
So we do see Chandra Torch of Defiance from Levi Popspichal. He's going to use the -3 ability to shoot down the Scrounger. And then he sends the turn back to Ben Stark.
And assuming that the Chandra goes unchecked, something that it opens up on the following turn, Popspical's leftovers are Aethersphere Harvester and a Licensed Disintegration. So +2 red mana would allow him to cast both on the same turn.
Well, there's kind of a heads-up play here. See Popspichal, no attacks. He read Ben for Grasp of Darkness, which Ben had, played it on Pia Nalar. This means that the Thopter could trade with Gnarlwood Dryad.
Yes.
Actually, never correction here. The Dryad's a 3/3. Scrap Heap Scrounger counts twice as we see the Thopter just get binned.
That's bad news.
Well, Levi will get a Planeswalker out of the deal, at least for 1 more turn.
And this Traverse also gets to find whatever Ben wants.
Yeah, looks like he's going to go ahead and traverse the open belt for Hissing Quagmire. So despite being able to get anything, he's going to go for a land, but looks like he'll choose a creature land, given the option. And another threat, Winding Constrictor, added to the board. Back over to Levi, his draw, a copy of Fatal Push. Does not have a permanent source of black mana, however, he does have that Ether Hub and 1 energy left in his reserves.
An issue that he's having here is also that that's his only source of black mana, and he has Fatal Push and Unlicensed Disintegration. You can't really block for his Chandra here. If only you could crew Aethersphere Harvester with a loyalty counter.
Yeah, they could never print a card like that. Chandra will +2 to try to find a spell for Levi, but she finds a basic Plains, dealing 2 damage to Ben Stark. Follow up from Levi, Aethersphere Harvester. Land and pass. Now up to 3 energy, though. That Ether Hub can continue to produce black mana, at least for a while. But no blockers, no way to crew Harvester. This is a rough spot again for Levi.
And so he has that fatal push here. Assume that Stark will read him for that and send both creatures at the Chandra to take that one down.
And that's going to be the play. At least one creature, perhaps both. We'll see on how the attack plays. It's like both at Chandra, so Chandra will hit the graveyard. Ben going to continue to add to his board. Another Traverse the Open Vault.
Unlikely that this one finds a land.
No, this one's going to find a copy, it looks like, of Tireless Tracker. Card conveniently out of range of Fatal Push. Ben's going to cast it, then make another tap land and net himself a clue. And, oh, never mind, the Chandra did leave play, so Fatal Push is an option for Levi, and he'll go ahead and use that to take care of the 3-2.
At least replaces itself with a clue. Now, Popspichal still has that unlicensed disintegration, but he needs to find a crew for this Harvester to be in this game.
He finds that his draw was Spire of Industry, so Levi's hand just land and kill spell. And he's just running out of resources, it looks like, against the black-green deck.
Yeah, again, he was on a mulligan. He's drawn more lands than his deck is really interested in. If he had a Sky Sovereign, that would be fine. Yeah, he'd still be looking for a crew, but at least he'd be doing something with his mana.
Go back to Ben Stark, looking in a pretty good position here. Gets to untap with 5 lands, a clue token, Winding Constrictor, Gnarlwood Dryad. He'll start with a swing for 5 with the pair of creatures. I believe I'm not ready to use Unlicensed Disintegration just yet. He'll go down to 12.
These are not particularly inviting targets for the disintegration, not to mention that it is Popspichal's only spell at his disposal.
Right, so you'd think he needs to make this Unlicensed Disintegration count. Ben will just pass the turn. Unlicensed Disintegration to the Winding Constrictor. This is a pretty neat play. Ben actually had a lot of lines available to him. He could have attacked with Hissing Quagmire. He could have cast Walking Ballista, but instead he just chooses to do, well, nothing. Goes ahead and so before the Winding Constrictor dies, he's going to use Natural Obsolescence to put the Aethersphere Harvester on the bottom of Levi's deck, so Ben doesn't even take extra damage.
And Popspichal peels another land.
Yeah, no more resources in hand. Ben being very careful to not lose value to something like a Fumigate that Levi might be sitting on. You see, not committing a second creature, instead just committing to cracking a clue. Or bringing back a Scrap Heap Scrounger. Really already has enough pressure with tools already in play. So on taps with 6 more power on the board, still keeping cards like Walking Ballista in hand. And right now, Levi out of everything. Out of removal, out of creatures.
With the Scrounger coming back, is the Dryad still delirious?
Well, we have instant, creature, land,
He
and
has
sorcery.
He
He has his Traverse, Grasp of Darkness, Evolving Wilds, and I believe we have Tireless Tracker as the creature.
All right, got there. So he does have a 2-turn clock on the table here for Popspichal.
Swing for 6, Levi down to 6. And we mentioned the team of Popspichal, Snyder, and Lynch had one more loss to give. It looks like Levi's going to give that one. So with the conclusion of this match, it is going to be in complete win-out territory for their team.
Yes. These matches, they've been going a little bit longer on the back tables here. And there's a good sign for Snyder and Lynch both. You know, the Grixis Control deck and the Miracles deck are the decks on average more interested in going long in those matchups. So perhaps those ones are going well. This one's certainly not, though. This one is all but over. And Popspichal picked up a Gideon. That one's going to be too little too late. That could have mattered if he was able to produce that much earlier in the game, but that one's not going to be enough here.
Yeah, Gideon makes a blocker, and now for Ben Stark, see, he's got his opponent down to 6.
Yeah, Stark already has Gear Hulk, which can pump up the walking ballista. You know, Stark's going to play around whatever he needs to. Just red, white, and mana being represented for Popspichal. There's nothing like Harness Lightning anywhere in the deck there.
And it's looking like it may just be a clean 5-0 for the pro team. Over in Legacy, Nass-Pardee takes game 2. Last time they were the match that didn't finish. This time they were the first match to finish, but the result is still the same. It's another win for Stark, Nass, and Pardee. So that's the first match win. And this game, if Ben Stark can hang on to it, will win the tournament.
There's realistically no mistake that Stark could make to throw this game away. Popspichal just does not have the resources to win.
Verdurous Gear Hulk from Ben Stark. And that one should seal this up. 1 counter on Scrounger, 1 counter on Dryad, 2 more on Ballista. Levi's last card is a land, so there should be just enough damage on the attack, not even counting Ballista's ability.
2 4-power creatures, 2 counters on the Ballista.
Yeah, perfect.
Anything here connects for 4.
And that is going to be the handshake. So in a clean 5-0 sweep, the team of Stark, Nass, and Pardee wins the rematch, wins the tournament, and caps off what has just been a dominant Sunday for them.
Yes, no losses on Sunday, just 1 loss in day 1 of the tournament.
I don't even know if there were game losses on Sunday. I mean, in the rounds we watched them, there certainly weren't. They started the day on table 1 and never left it.